support staff, Ms. Carlse. I'll be chairing this meeting as Honorable Manu is in another meeting with the chairs of chairs. And we are here today to finalize the report that has to go to the committee from the subcommittee. So this is basically consideration adoption of the report from the subcommittee, and then the final approval will go to the committee itself. So without wasting any time, Advocate Nell, good afternoon. If you can take us through the report and the relevant sections that needs our input. Thank you. Without further delay, Advocate Nell.
Thank you, Chair and members. Members would have seen the report. We have sent it through, circulated it via email. So we took the interim report that the committee had already adopted, and then we added the additional issues regarding vehicles other than taxis and some of the additional comments that came from the members. So I've kept all the highlighted sections. These are where the new additions come in. So still here in terms of our introduction, the proposed addition here to the report is that the subcommittee, having considered the presentations received, sought to submit an initial report and was of the view that further engagements may be required to determine the full extent of illegally converted vehicles on South African roads and propose possible remedial steps that should be taken to remedy any further gaps that may, where identified in the current legislation and that may needs to get out there, gaps that were identified in the current legislation and regulations linked to vehicle conversions. The subcommittee obtained permission to expand its mandate to cover these areas on 17 August 2021 when the Portfolio Committee adopted the initial report. Then we just indicate here, unfortunately, due to programming limitations and other urgent commitments of members of the subcommittee, there were no further meeting engagements on the expanded areas. The subcommittee members did, however, receive various allegations and reports of vehicles other than minibus taxi vehicles identified in the report of the public protector that had been illegally converted, or vehicles that were clearly intended to transport cargo, and no level of conversion would truly be safe for purposes of transporting passengers within what would normally serve as a cargo hold. This report incorporates the initial report content, observations, and has the additional recommendations linked to vehicles other than converted minibus taxi vehicles. That is on the introduction. Obviously, the analysis has not changed. That remains the same. And this we took from the Public Protector's report. And then also the Public Protector's investigation came from her report. Then we do get into the other alleged illegal vehicle conversions, but that was already in our interim report where members made mention of the Ranger vehicles. And then also noting that this was also brought to the Public Protector's attention by the initial complainant. Then we just reiterate the subcommittee's objectives that were the objectives at the start. The areas of work of the subcommittee, these come from the terms of reference, and then we go through all the presentations we've received. Obviously, there's no additions to these presentations because they were all part of the interim or the initial report. Just trying to see where our next amendment is. It's going to be at the observations. Okay, so those are still the interim committee's observations are listed above. And then we did propose additions at the bottom. And here we go from 4.8. That the subcommittee members have received reports of illegal conversions of cargo vehicles for purposes of being used as ambulances security officer transport vehicles, tourism, bus or shuttle services, or vehicles used for scholar transport. At its core, cargo vehicles are never designed to carry more than 2 or 3 persons safely, and the members were of the view that cargo vehicles should be for the exclusive use of transporting cargo and not be allowed to be converted to carrying passengers, legally or otherwise. The members were of the view that these practices should be ceased. If they cannot be ceased, there must be a clear improvement in regulation of the industry performing cargo vehicle conversions. There was an expression of hope that once the National Road Traffic Amendment Bill is finalized and sent to the President for assent, this should go a long way towards the improved regulation of manufacturers, importers, and bodybuilders of vehicles. Then our new additions here to the recommendations. From the engagements, there appears to be a number of linkages of issues identified to the National Road Traffic Act and the National Road Traffic Amendment Bill, which is currently before the National Council of Provinces, prior to being adopted by the National Assembly and sent to the President for assent. The subcommittee members were able to raise their concerns in the consideration of the bill in order to propose amendments that could address the issues identified. However, then I have just in brackets there, not being clear on scrapping of vehicles due to illegal conversions, as well as improved regulation of MIBs and stricter provisions or requirements for vehicle conversions. Those were the issues that members raised. Then we continue. Following the engagements on the bill, members were also alerted to notices being issued to taxi operators that by 31 January 2023, none of the thousands of outstanding illegally converted minibus taxis would be allowed to transport passengers, and that if the operators did not present the vehicles for scrapping under the revised taxi recapitalization program, these vehicles will be impounded at roadblocks from February 2023, and if found to be illegal conversions, these vehicles will be scrapped without compensation per the taxi recap program. The subcommittee, having considered the presentations received, seeks to submit this report as a final report and is of the view that further engagements may be required with the department and the committee to determine the full extent of illegally converted vehicles on South African roads and propose possible remedial steps that should be taken to remedy any further gaps that may be identified in the current legislation and regulations linked to vehicle conversions. The subcommittee requests that the Portfolio Committee, through the adoption of this report, programs further stakeholder engagements with regard to other vehicle conversions as indicated above and submit supplementary reports on its engagements and findings. The subcommittee was also of the view that future vehicle conversions should only be allowed if the vehicle manufacturer indicates that the vehicle can be converted for the new proposed use, and that the vehicle safety specifications for especially public transport vehicles must be updated and brought in line with current requirements. Further to this, the subcommittee is of the view that vehicles used for scholar transport must in no way be cargo vehicles or converted cargo vehicles. And then the new proposed recommendations. The department report by 15 February 2023 on progress to scrap vehicles per the gazetted proclamation dated 31 October 2022, with a clear deadline for scrapping of illegally converted vehicles as 31 January 2023. Then obviously 5.2 remains the same. 5.3 as an amendment. The department should work towards specific regulations that prevent the conversion of cargo vehicles into people carriers, especially when used for scholar transport. Also bearing in mind the economic and industry impact that would result from the subcommittee proposal to prevent future vehicle conversions if the vehicle manufacturers do not agree to the specific vehicle conversions. And then here at the bottom, the department should submit a report on these considerations to the committee within 15 days of adoption of this report. And I do have here in brackets, note that the department did not submit this report following the adoption of the initial report of August 2021. That is why I propose this to still be in the final report. And then 5.4, the department must investigate allegations of other types of illegally converted vehicles other than minibus taxi vehicles and submit a report on the number of these vehicles registered on the INATA system to the committee within 6 months of adoption of this report by the Portfolio Committee. Chair, just on 5.4, when we received the apology from Mr. Hansinger, he indicated that he would like the subcommittee to consider that the department needs to present a framework within a month of adoption of the report, showing which, where, and how legislation could be improved in terms of dealing with vehicle conversions. I think if the members are in agreement, we can add that here at 5.4, so that we make it, yeah, we can add it to 5.4 so that the department reports on the number of vehicles, and then as well as a framework within which they can indicate how legislation can be amended.
Okay,
So we will.
If you can pause there, let's just hear what Honorable Kitamabala says, and then I can give my input. Honorable Kitamabala.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think, Honorable Chairperson, we need to. Are we going to put that suggestion from Honorable Hansinger as a recommendation or as a finding of the committee?
As a recommendation, Honorable Kitamabala, as a recommendation. That we can still discuss that in the portfolio committee, but this is just a recommendation.
Okay, sure.
So you are not opposed to that recommendation?
No, I'm not.
Okay, I'm also not opposed to it, Advocate Nel.
Okay, Chair, so it will look something along these lines. Further year 2, the department must submit a report to the committee within a month of adoption of this report. Must submit a report to the committee on a framework.
Honorable Nel. Nel.
Yes, Mr. Sitole.
I'm checking there because you see on top there before 5.4, they say the department should submit a report on this consideration to the committee within 15 days. I'm trying to check that 15 days and then and within a month. Which is the right one?
But Mr. Sitole, the 15 days was the wording that we used in the interim report on looking at the economic impact if the members decide to that the best way is to prevent any cargo vehicle conversions. The 15 days was approved by the committee for that recommendation. The proposal by Mr. Hansinger was that this framework that needs to be submitted should be within a month. It's a framework on possible legislative amendments.
Okay.
Are you clear on that, Honorable Kitamabala?
I'm clear now.
Thank you. Continue, Advocate Nel.
So, Chair, this will be our addition. I'm also going to highlight that just so that our other members can see where those additions are. I might just change the numbering to make this a 5.4 because it will read better. But I just wanted to have it here. Further here too, the department must submit a report to the committee on a framework on possible legislative amendments to remedy these concerns within a month of adoption of this report. So that we cover the request there from Mr. Hansinger. And then going further on, it's just to show members that this recommendation to the Minister of the Department of Trade, to the taxi industry, Trade and Industries recommendation remains the same. The taxi industry, we are just indicating here that based on the new gazetted deadline, it's just so that we also have it in our communication to them. The industry must work with the department on improving the uptake of the taxi recapitalization program and call on their members who own illegally converted vehicles to work with or submit these for scrapping per the gazetted deadline of 31 January 2023. Because the old recommendation was that they need to submit those vehicles for scrapping, but we did not have the deadline date that was gazetted at that time. So Chair, those are the proposed amendments. If members are happy or if members would like us to add some more points, we can do so now.
Honorable Kitamabala, you got any additions?
No, I don't have any addition, Luke. We can adopt it.
Advocate, now the one thing I think I did just put it on the chat. It was the fact that a lot of people were bamboozled in buying these illegal taxis, and then they couldn't get operating permits, and then they are stuck with those taxis. If we can't, maybe we have a recommendation that those taxis must also be brought forward for scrapping, or do we have that in there already?
As far as I understood it, in terms of the gazetted notice, when I read the gazetted notice, it does say that all vehicles, even if it's not on the taxi recap, that they need to submit them. But it does look like the wording was more regarding the vehicles that were found, or the number that was found in the public protector's investigation. So I'll just have to check, because we have it here in the observations. And then we just have that they need to work with the department. Our recommendation to the taxi industry, they need to work with the department. So we said any member who owns a legally converted vehicle must submit them for scrapping. But the problem is, if they don't have an operating license, as far as I understand it, they will not get the remuneration in terms of the taxi recap, because they were never supposed to then operate those vehicles on the roads. So they can't say that they made a loss, or they would make a loss if the vehicle is scrapped, because they've already made a profit, which technically is an illegal profit if you operate without an operating license. But that is a legal issue, Chair. But I think the only other thing in terms of possible vehicles that don't have operating licenses, we might need to then add the recommendation here under the recommendations to the Minister of Transport, where we say that the minister, or suggest that the minister needs to do a similar time-specific gazetted notice, and find a way to assist the taxi industry. It's very difficult legally to assist them when they don't have valid operating licenses.
Okay, now I've got it. Okay, then now I was just thinking a little bit broader, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm in agreement. Let's hear if I'm in agreement with this report to be submitted to the portfolio committee for adoption and approval. So let me just hear from Honorable Kitamabala if he's in agreement, and I think then we can wrap this up.
Thank you, Honorable Mr. McDonald. Ma'am, can you please go to the first introduction? Yes. Go up now. Okay, go down again. Where you highlighted. Yes, just with there. Because I'm trying to check here on honorable chairperson. If you said to determine the full extent of illegally converted vehicles on South African roads and propose possible remedial steps that should be taken to remedy any further gaps that were identified in the current legislation and regulation linked to vehicle conventions. I'm agree with that, but I'm trying to check the issue of DTI, the Department of what do you call DTI? Department of Trade and Industry.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm trying to check, because if you check here, you talk about cargo. What about other companies like Nissan and because there is some vehicles that are being used for ambulances, like the one from Nissan and the other one from Ford and all those companies. What do you say about them?
Mr. Sitole, we do have it in here. A cargo vehicle is not a specific brand of vehicle. So the cargo is bakkies, it is panel vans, it includes all those types of vehicles that were initially created or designed to carry goods. That is the general accepted description of cargo. So that will cover when they convert Ford Rangers or Toyota Hiluxes into ambulances and they just add the canopies, or when they, as we saw in Rustenburg, the one security company that it almost looked like they just added some plastic garden chairs to the back of a bakkie, and the security guards have to sit there while they're driving around town, which is not ideal. So the back of a bakkie, like they do with the school children as well, it's considered a cargo vehicle. As soon as you sit in the cargo hold, which is the back hold of the bakkie, it's a cargo vehicle. So it's your panel vans and the bakkies, or any vehicle that was initially designed to only seat 2 people with a goods hold. So the Department of Trade and Industry is included in terms of the recommendations at the bottom. It's just that there's no real changes you can propose to them other than the recommendations that were made, where they need to clarify the working relationship. I'm just going to go down here. So here we have it, that the department must work with the NRCS and SABS to improve or update compulsory specifications for the automotive industry with specific references to public transport vehicles for purposes of this report. And the NRCS improve the regulatory and compliance systems and increase market surveillance activities and inspections to monitor compliance with compulsory specifications and improve the enforcement thereof. That will require them to do that work, whether it's a converted vehicle or a new vehicle that comes into the industry before they can set it off or certify it as approved by SABS or NRCS. So this will mean whenever it's going to be a vehicle that's used for public transport, and that will normally be your vehicles that are anything from a 7-seater to the large buses that we have, they will have to comply with the new specifications. In terms of the recommendations made by the public protector, the recommendations really are not that intense against the Department of Trade and Industry or its entities, and the Portfolio Committee on Trade that looked at this same report by the public protector also did not have harsh recommendations for the department. They just agreed with the recommendations made by the public protector.
Thank you very much, Shiba. And then the last one, I'm trying to check, because we have a lot of abbreviations here. Are you going to have a separate cover for that abbreviations, or what is going to happen? Because if somebody don't know about the NRCS by SABC and DTIC, sometimes if you just trying to read without knowing what does that mean. But that doesn't make, I'm trying to check it.
If members required, we can add it. The practice in the reports is normally where you use the word in full the first time, and then you are allowed to use the abbreviations afterwards. So the first time in the report that's further up where we have the full name of the Department of Trade, Industry and Commerce, it will be there, and then we show that the following will be the abbreviation that's used. We have it where we had the meetings with them and where the Public Protector's report is in the top. But if members would like, we can add an annex with the abbreviations, which is similar to how we do for the BRRR reports.
Thank you very much. I think I'm covered.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Kitamabala. Are you covered, Honorable Kitamabala? So can we then adopt the report so that it can go to the Portfolio Committee for consideration?
Yes, you can adopt the report.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kitamabala. So thank you, Advocate Nell. I think the report is with those additions and is fine. And then we can now submit this report to the Portfolio Committee for consideration and adoption. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you to all the staff and everybody, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank